Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors, journalists, all different people who are putting stuff out so we can kind of make sense of what's going on in our borough of the Bronx, of course, the city of New York. And in our second segment today, we're going to be at the Bronx River Art Center, and you're going to meet somebody who has done amazing work for more than 25 years. But right now, let's go to, we were talking about journalists. Here's a top flight journalist. It is our buddy Reuven Blau. Nice to see you, Reuven. He's a reporter for City with a special focus on the criminal justice and the city's prison system. Maybe it's a little too early to talk about the prison system as regards the mayor of the city of New York, but he's a little closer maybe than he was. Let's see, Justice Department unsealed 57-page indictment that accused Mr. Adams of bribery, conspiracy, fraud, and soliciting illegal foreign campaign donations from the Turkish government. Everybody around him seems to be, all your empty-handed armies are all going home, as Bob Dylan sang. What do you make of this? Is there any way to get our arms around how significant this is? That the first time the mayor of the city of New York is being indicted.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate always
Of
love
course.
coming on. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just a historical moment in the city, in the city's history. I mean, we've had some, pretty crooked mayors in the past, but it's never gotten to this point. They've typically either resigned or left kind of right before these kind of moments. And this case comes from the Southern District, the Manhattan federal prosecutor, and clearly it's something they've been working on for a long time since he was, it dates back to literally to 2015 when he was Brooklyn Borough president, and he began to have a relationship with this sort of Turkish government, and they started offering him free trips and other which ended up translating into donations, and then kind of straw donors, which is essentially donors that are given smaller donations are matched by the city's public campaign finance board. So they kind of pretended that these small donations were coming in, but really kind of were backed up by these kind of larger larger entities from the kind of with Turkish ties.
So, as the general public, you try to measure what, gee whiz, is this like a fraudulent or is it a political hit? But the things that tie it together, they say that he went to lengths to conceal the alleged schemes by using encrypted messages. He deleted messages. There was a false paper trail that was compelling. It starts to sound like it's very hard to defend. And it just happened today, folks. We're recording this on Tuesday, October 1st. I saw in the Daily News today that Antonio Reynoso, the current borough president who succeeded Eric Adams, said he was offered a similar deal by the Turkish government, but he turned it down because he said, well, it's not really legal for me to do that. I'm really, frankly, out of words that this has gone down. It seems so significant.
Yeah, I mean, you cited the Reynoso story, and that's fascinating. One of the elements that really captured my attention with that piece was he apparently went to the city's kind of office of immigration and they and the FBI as well. Like they had some meeting, and they told him, hey, look, you shouldn't accept gifts from foreign entities, including from Turkey, in part because they could be including recording devices. And then he apparently went back and checked all his devices, all his gifts, and kind of made sure that wasn't the case. So I mean, yeah, and I think there's this clear demarcation of like how different people in that office have handled it. But interestingly, his predecessor, Eric Adams' predecessor, Marty Markowitz, did take trips himself, and then kind of got into some trouble there as well. Nothing to this extent, but one of the things also that like has come out is that you talk about like him using encrypted messages. I mean, he's also lied to the media about where he's gone, when he's gone, and how these are being paid for. Like whenever being questioned by the by members of the press, he's always said, "Oh, I'm paying for this. It's coming out of my own pocket." And it's clearly there was a discounted rate, and some of the stuff wasn't paid for at all. I mean, we're seeing this just not an honest response from him over the years about these sort of trips. And in his defense, he's talking about kind of the larger issue. His lawyer had a press conference yesterday, and essentially like the way I didn't cover it, a colleague of mine, Greg Smith, was there, and the way he described it was just like him throwing everything at the wall and hoping, kind of something sticks. And
Something would
apparently,
say.
I mean, he said as far as like the straw donors, it's a smaller number compared to, his total, campaign collections. And he's also arguing that he didn't know about it, and, that it was really his campaign staff that was responsible for checking these things out. He's arguing as far as the trips go that, this is sort of a normal thing politicians do, including, kind of politicians in the federal government. Although, federal politicians have very strict rules about how they can handle, like seat upgrades even. So, there really isn't a specific correlation, and it really is kind of arguing, something that's going to have to be, taken over in court, essentially.
Well, obviously, you and I are not going to adjudicate this this case. But another thing which just seems so crazy. Listen, it's horrible. I wouldn't want anybody to take my cell phone, and I don't believe I have any criminal activity on there, but I don't want him to know.
Yeah.
But then allegedly, he could not remember the passcode to his phone to unlock it. Every one of us, has one of these things. And, okay, I got to reset the phone. I got to, of course, your passcode. How could you not know? I mean, that kind of stuff it really is like, is petty, but it certainly suggests that he is, thinks he's over the line. The other thing that connects it to say, okay, well, you took money, but apparently the Turkish government got some waivers when it came to safety and other concerns for their embassy, that they were building an embassy, and they were like, and I don't know the details of that, but apparently, the city kind of looked the other way at some of the considerations for that. That gets really scary. That means that, in essence, it not only did he accept the gifts, but he returned the favor.
Yeah, I mean, and then according to the federal indictment, that those zoning permits were done, on multiple folds where they were skipping the line, right? There's a huge kind of backlog, especially during COVID. I think it was kind of during that period. And there's always a backlog even, without that, but so they skipped the line. But on top of it, like the fire officials had told them, hey, look, we don't think it's not up to par. Like, we don't want to sign off on this because it's actually not legitimately going to pass. And he insisted on that being so. I mean, his lawyer is
Wow.
saying, look, he was borough president at the time. He wasn't head of the FDNY. He wasn't the mayor. So how can you argue that there was a quid pro quo when he didn't have the power, essentially? And they're arguing to make that happen. They're also arguing that the Turkish official who gave him the tickets was a different Turkish official who asked him for this favor. So there's not like a direct correlation. I mean, these are arguments obviously that he's going to be making in court.
Well, you can make them in court, and then, of course, a jury of his peers will figure that out. The next aspect of this, I got two more aspects of this. One is all the people who are resigning. I mean, what was it? Timothy Pearson, the former NYPD captain and a close ally of the mayor, has resigned. The chancellor, now that was interesting. David Banks, his family seems to be involved. He doesn't seem to be directly involved, but he said that he was going to leave at the end of the year anyway, and he's going to stay on for a couple of months to finish out, that term. Do you believe that, or do you think that he was like, I think he just got married or engaged, whatever? I don't follow his romantic life, but do you believe that he was going to resign anyway? And he just said, well, I may as well announce it now with everybody else.
I mean, it's suspect. Here's what I mean with the star, right? This stuff happens, the cell phone gets seized, all these raids start happening, and then suddenly, he's announcing this. I've covered City Hall and, including city agencies for about 20 years now. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen, kind of the top levels of government, including the NYPD commissioner, his law department head, his chief counsel, who just announced a new person, but just the inner kind of his entire inner staff, that really kind of make the city run is no longer, has resigned in large part after raids on houses. You talk about Banks, you've got Mayor Tashina Wright, who's one of the deputy mayors, and
That's
there's
right.
there's a story about how legally that means that there's like a level of protection regarding you can't testify, you're not obligated to testify against a spouse in a criminal case, and they're arguing, hey, look, we have
I
this right
forgot about
all the
that. That's
time.
fascinating. Yeah.
But I mean, that really, you talk about, I don't know, like I can't tell you if that's the reason or not, but like it definitely I do know that indicates that there's just a tremendous amount of smoke around his inner staff as well.
Well, let's see. I don't know the exact numbers. We've got 8 million people who are residents of New York City. And now they see, we got changes at the top of the police. There were some other people in the fire department. I don't have the list in front of me of all the people who have abandoned ship. What happens now in New York City government? And do you have a sense of how this might affect, I don't know, the vote on City of Yes or any of the other obvious vital things going on that happen every minute of every day in the city of New York?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and I think everyone's really holding their breath to see what happens next. The mayor just did a press conference today. He does like once a week. He takes questions from the media on Tuesdays and insisted, hey, look, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can handle my private affairs and run the city. You know, but at the same time, there are multiple vacancies and multiple other kind of investigations swirling around his former top officials. So it's really hard
Yeah.
to say like how some of the stuff like moves forward or doesn't. We did a story talking to city workers about what's going on
Yes,
just on the
that's
ground
right.
level, and somebody in the NYPD told me that it's a mess. It's like it's beyond totally chaotic and everything's kind of in a standstill. The other agency people said, hey, look, we're just going to forward with this.
Yeah, so you've got things like, okay, so I mentioned the big things like City of Yes, which is obviously a huge program, a huge initiative, but then things will happen. Crime certainly, and other things could certainly happen. I mean, we know that there's war out there in the rest of the world. You never know what's going to happen here. How fit is, and I know you don't have the answer to this, how fit is the New York City government to respond to, who knows, any number of things that certainly could happen in our city of New York? When someone gets elected, they spend their time before they take office, between, let's say, November and the first of the year, putting together a staff so then they can, hit the ground running. Now you're in the middle of things going on, and staffs are out there, and people are new in positions. I don't know. I'm really don't have an answer to it. Do you have a sense of which way it's going to go, or at this point, let's watch what happens?
I mean,
We're
I think
almost out of
it's
time, so I want to just get.
yeah, very quickly say it's truly unprecedented times. I think if you're a supporter of Eric Adams, I think you have to say like it's been a good Monday and Tuesday. We're talking, we are talking about it still, but he's around, and the calls have it hasn't been kind of a daily call for his resignation. So I
Well,
think at
it's
the very
out
least he's
there. I
weathered
mean,
the
we'll
initial
see.
storm. Yeah,
Yeah.
at the very least
Listen,
he's weathered the initial storm.
this is why we need people like you, Reuven Blau, from the city. Please check out thecity.org, right? That's the website. And
It's
we need you.
city.nyc.
The city.nyc, you're correct. Thank
Yeah.
you. But listen, we really
Thank you
need
so
you,
much.
and thank you for your reporting. And I'm guessing we're going to get you back here when we find out more. We
Appreciate it.
appreciate your
Always
time.
happy to join. Thank
Great. We're
you.
going to take a short break, and then we'll go to the Bronx River Arts Center, where we have there's a new director coming, and somebody who's been there for 25 years will no longer be there. We'll talk to her in a minute. Don't go away.